We did about 16 of these construction projects, or 17. And out of those, we have 3 that aren't totally finished. And of the 3, we're actually going to do a punch list on Halbert Wednesday. So we're right. We've got a lot done with very few people, but we got everybody back and a lot of eager people to get back to work.
Sounds good. Got any questions for David? Councilor Jordan?
Are they gonna put sod down at Hobart?
I'll have to check on the budget, but we have on all of them. The winter, we're trying to wait till it got the cold spells over on some of it. We didn't want to get a winter kill on the sod.
Okay.
Okay. Somebody else? No? Councilor Dare?
Hey, Dave, are those lights at JW Sam, are those on a photo cell or what?
I'll have to check. They're either photo or timer.
Because they've been off for the last 2 nights, so I didn't know what's going on there.
I'll have them checked out.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Dobbins?
David, have you scheduled a ribbon cutting for the Muskogee endeavor there?
No, that's kind of outside of what I do. The programs pretty much take care of the ribbon cuttings.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that, David.
The programs usually do the ribbon cuttings, so I'm sure that's coming soon, though.
Okay, thank you, David.
Councilor Shambaugh?
Hey, David. Do you have anything to do with storm shelter programs?
I have not. I have in the Woodman. It's been several years back, but I think Emergency Management has done a few of them, but I can't even tell you what year it was. We had a grant for some, but it was several years ago.
Okay. Chief Staff, you have one?
So, yeah, emergency management does coordinate a lot of the grants that we've done for community-based or larger shelters. So we have some like Head Start here, some of our other locations, and Philip Manus with emergency management does those. And then also remind you that Housing Authority has those for elderly, for individuals, but depending on which one you're asking about.
Yeah, I talked to Housing, and they told me about their elder program. I've been getting calls from some of the small schools in the southern part of my district. They've been right in the path of several tornadoes in the last year, and they were inquiring about if there's anything out there to help their schools maybe get a safe place.
If you'd like to share those with us, we could reach out both from education and emergency management and try to work out some level of partnership or coordination with them. We've been focusing mostly where we have high concentration of kids, such as Head Starts and Child Development Centers. And then we've also been looking at Housing Authority sites where we have cluster sites with higher density population. But we'd love to talk to the schools and see if there's anything we might be able to do to assist them.
I'll get with you today. Thanks, sir.
Okay.
Anyone else? Councilor Shaw?
Thank you. David, I had a question. When we sell our hay, how much do we charge for a bale?
I think it's $25 a bale.
25 a bale?
I think so.
Okay. And one other question I had was on the meat processing plant. It says livestock pens are complete. Are those livestock pens going to be next to the meat processing plant?
Yes, and what they are is just a holding pen to offload, trailers and stuff when they show up, and then, take them in one at a time.
So if we have customers buying food from this meat processing, the meat processing plant, they're going to actually see the cattle out there?
They could if they're there when one comes, but it's going to be a custom processing plant at first. So it won't be just selling to the general public. People will bring their animals to us to process.
Bon appetit. Thank you, David.
You're welcome, thank you.
Anyone else? Oh, Councilman Miller?
Hey, David, on that meat processing plant, just one thought I did have, because it takes a while to get USDA regulations and stuff. Are we looking at, though, where it could, I don't know how to, I guess, best phrase it, where citizens come in there to process their own meat, and a lot of families that I grew up with, everyone goes in on them, they get a quarter or something like that they buy, which is a good thing, but what's preventing, or is there a need to be preventing where someone comes in and utilizes our meat processing facility as a part of their beef operation, meaning they're gonna use our meat processing facility, then get the meat, and then turn around and sell it as a distributor, and now our meat processing facility becomes a part of a more opportunity zone for citizens to try to turn into their own business. Because I know that was something that we've talked about, is maybe making it into our tribal business like the Quapaws have. But is there, I guess, room for maybe a citizen that could do that, or are we going to try to make sure that doesn't happen? So, we're giving this as an opportunity for families to feed themselves, but as far as taking it onto a business, that's going to be something that's just ours.
Right now, that it'll just be a processing, for individuals, custom processing. So it'll, most of your packages say not for sale. So, I mean, without USDA inspection, they can't sell it. And, for the first phase, I don't think we should have any issues with that. And the plan is to grow this thing, baby steps, learn how to do it, and then just keep adding to it until we become USDA certified.
Okay, great. And does will that be a place that we're able to use for bison when we get there to start processing them?
Yes, sir. It's going to be for deer, bison, and cattle.
Perfect. All right, appreciate it. Appreciate it, Chair.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Legg?
I did get a question about the bison. If we do start processing, what would we be doing with the skulls? Would those be available to sell?
I don't know. There might be a business there, though.
I need dibs on
It's something
one.
to look at, because hides will be a big deal too.
Okay.
And that's something we'll look into.
Councilman Shambaugh?
So did you say we're not going to be doing pork, pigs?
Let's see. I think we may be doing hogs still. I'll have to verify that.
Okay.
We
Well, I
will.
know that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we will be processing hogs as well. There's a special section specifically for smoking the hog meat.
This last year, actually last year, there was an abundance of hogs for sale. You could buy a 300-pound hog for $30. I bought two for $50 and gave one of them to a church to process, but, because you can't buy them in a store that cheap. But, if they have these hogs, 300-pound hogs for $30, man, that would be a great investment for our nation to butcher, buy a bunch or even sell or give them away to citizens. And if they want to keep them or butcher them, whatever they want to do, that would be great for our citizens if we run across that again, because that's, man, 300-pound pig for $30 is outstanding. That's something that we probably need to look at, especially if any of you councilmen hear about it in the future. I know I did, and I was approached by it, and man, that would be good to let them know, so we could supply a lot of pork to our citizens who wanted it.
Yes, sir. And, we actually had somebody, I think they were going to donate them to us, and all we had to do was pay for transportation. And the transportation was going to cost way more than just buying hogs. So, but, yeah. I think this is going to be a good deal for Cherokee Nation as a whole. I really do, because a lot of our people can't even get their cattle processed right now for like a year out.
That's a great idea about the hogs. Councilman Buzzard?
Yes, David, or maybe Todd too. I guess if we're going to get it USDA certified, and are there a lot of Cherokees around that are meat cutters, or Are we looking at sending people to school to learn how to cut meat and stuff like that? I mean, we need to be prepared if we're gonna, do something like that. So I'm just wondering, if we thought that far ahead of time. Thanks.
I
So,
don't want to speak, go ahead.
sorry, I didn't see you talking. So the initial thing that we're using is Diane Kelly's group has several displaced workers that actually have some experience processing meat. So that's one of the areas that we're looking at fulfilling the staff. But Counselor, to your point, that was our initial conversation of trying to work with Diane Kelly's team to identify that, so we have a steady supply chain of people that could work in the facility and be trained and certified to make sure that we do it correctly.
Councilor Deere?
Hey, Counselor Shambo, we found a guy, when we were doing that before with that freight, a guy in Dora's district has a hog thing, and he was charging $5.99 a pound. So that if we can get it cheaper like that, I mean, it's gonna save a lot of our people a lot of money. So, I mean, you think about how many hog fries and all that stuff doing, but yeah, he was at $5.99 a pound. So I just would let him know that guy was there and what the prices were.
Anyone else? I'd like to just make an observation. Our herd now, buffalo herd is 160 and still growing. All of our calves look so strong. And I just want to pat the people on the back up there that's doing such a great job. I had some pictures sent to me this weekend from some church groups that was up there, and they were from Sequoia County, and they were just having such a blast up there looking at the buffalo and how good a shape they were and everything. So they're doing a great job, and I'm really, really proud of the way the herd's growing and the way they're doing.
I'll pass that on, and just a reminder, this whole year, there's just been a few people working really, really hard at taking care of those.
All right. Anyone else? Good job. We'll let you go.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Real Estate Services, Ginger Reeves. Oh, she's here. Anyone got any questions? Did you say something? Anybody? Councilor Shambo.
Hey, Ginger, how are you?
I'm good, and you?
Good to have you here. Hey,
nice to be
without
here.
mentioning names, did you reach out to those people, or that woman that I gave you from
Yes.
Salina? Did you get to talk to her?
We have not been able to reach her yet, but we have reached out a few times.
Okay, all right.
Yes, and we'll continue to do so.
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Anyone else? I think we got some exciting times coming up for our real estate services, so good report, and thank you.
Thank you.
All right, environmental programs, Tom Atkins. Chad, you filling in today?
Yes, sir. Tom
Okay.
Elkins is unavailable. Can you hear me? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, thank you for the opportunity today. I had a little bit of some technical problems, so appearing today in person. I want to kind of go through a number of different projects that we have and make sure, keeping you folks aware of how things are progressing.
Just a little bit louder, please.
Can you hear me now?
Got it?
How about that? Good? Can you hear me now? Is that better? This happens to me every time, I would point out. All right. Better.
There we go.
All right, just to go through kind of some brief updates of our programs for the last month. One of the things that we've been working particularly hard on is the seed bank. We're about 2/3 complete with our mailing initiative for this year. We've had by far the most demand that we've ever had for this program. To put it in perspective, we received 3,000 more requests within the first 3 days of this program than we had for any entire calendar year before. Normally, we leave our portal open for people to request seeds for 4 weeks, and we had to close it after 2 because we just simply don't have enough. And it's not that we don't have enough seeds available, it's just the demand has been something that we frankly could never have anticipated. I think a lot of this has to do with, the folks being at home more during COVID-19 and also just the general program expanding, which it does year after year. So far this year, we've mailed out just under 5,000 packages, which is quite a bit. I know that there's some folks who have expressed some concern about not getting the first options of seeds that they had. I mean, that's the way it goes when we have this kind of demand. But every request that we have is being responded to, and every every concern that's being raised, we're reaching out to these folks individually, and we're moving the best we can with the resources we have and the limited number of seeds. Even though our seed production last year was pretty good, it's just having a difficult time keeping up with every individual getting every specific request that they make. We still have about 1,000 orders to process, even though we've closed the requesting period, so we'll still be pushing these out over the next couple of weeks. I mentioned a couple of months ago, and we've had some ongoing discussions about safety, which was the assumption of environmental jurisdiction as a response to McGirt by the state of Oklahoma or the governor's office. We've lodged our concerns with both the EPA and other stakeholders that could have an impact on that decision making. But as I've mentioned in the past, there's some difficult and unfavorable law on this that we're going to have to try to overcome. We have continued to reach out and maintain our objection, not just in concept of losing jurisdiction, but the process and the manner by which it was employed. It is my belief that we weren't properly consulted in that discussion, and that's part of the concerns that we've raised. With the new administration coming in, change in over of EPA leadership, we've reached out again to the Biden administration transition team and the EPA changing leadership to talk about how this could be done different and what changes could be made. So we signed on to a letter with 16 other tribes to the EPA and to the Biden administration to have a conversation about how we got here and what we can do to perhaps make some changes. And we look forward to having that conversation with a very large collective group of tribes. Every month I try to give an update on our electric vehicle initiative. I mentioned in the past that we purchased 2 transit buses that are going to be used to supplement our rural transit system here with the Cherokee Nation Tribal Transit Program. Those buses have been wrapped. The chargers have been completed at both Stillwell here in Tahlequah, and we're working on a third here in Tahlequah as well for redundancy. And we anticipate those buses being turned over to our transit program within the next 2 weeks, and then probably going live shortly thereafter once they conduct training and testing. And again, that'll be the first rural electric transit system in the country. So we're really proud of that. Building on that, a lot of the funding that we've received, we've requested year after year through applications to the Volkswagen Mitigation Trust. We're in the process of finalizing our 4th application to be submitted here in about 3 to 4 months. And with that, we anticipate getting maybe $2 million in additional funding to help support our EV initiative, which isn't just buying electric vehicles, isn't just developing infrastructure, but also identifying and retiring older pieces of equipment, both on the government side and the business side, that's suitable under the rules for replacement. And so we're refining that proposal now and anticipate submitting that within the next 3 to 4 months. Landfill master plan, I've mentioned in the past that we've hired a third-party outside engineering firm to do some analysis and help us refine what our operations and closure options look like for the landfill. We've already scoped out with our engineering firm the nature of the work and the scope of work to be done, and now we're working towards the actual development phase. So over the coming months, we're going to be working closely with our engineering firm to answer some of these questions and put some of these concepts into perspective. And I look forward to hopefully getting that report towards the end of summer, which will help outline and detail some of our options there. We continue to make operational gains at the landfill, cutting costs. With the new equipment, as I mentioned last time, and cell development, it's put us in an opportunity to really make some gains. So I look forward to what the numbers look like whenever we do our quarterly review. Last month, this body approved the Cherokee Nation Wildlands Hunting and Fishing Preserve Act of 2021. I mentioned in the last time we had this issue before the last Resources Committee that I put together a programming team of individuals across the tribe to help understand the regulatory piece and define the mission for this project and this program going forward. We've had a number of different meetings looking through all different aspects of comparative jurisdictions and how they manage these programs, and I think we've made a lot of progress. My goal is to have the regulations finalized by sometime in the next 30 to 45 days. I've already started penning the actual draft regulations and working through the concepts that we've identified with that programming team, and look forward to getting those out for public view here as soon as possible. The last item I have is an update on the Hunting and Fishing Compact. I've reached out, as I have in the past, with our state counterparts on elevating a conversation based on the priorities that I've outlined in the past, and in the context and as should be considered in light of McGirt. There's been some shuffling around on the state government side in terms of where these particular government agencies report to certain cabinet members, and that's settled down. So I'll no longer be working with the same individuals, even though at the agency level those folks still remain unchanged. So I think we're now in a place where we have the folks identified, the chain of command, to continue with those conversations. And with that, those are the updates I have on the major projects that we're working on, and if any questions I can help clarify anything, it'd be a privilege.
Councilman Critton?
Yes, sir. Chad, when you'd mentioned a report, have a lot of people interested. I'm interested in, finding out the nation's position on hemp, cannabis, medical. And when can we expect to hear or see that report?
Yeah, we've been working, to get that part of it finalized. One of the issues we ran into is getting the appropriate information that we needed from everyone in light of COVID and reduced staffing. A lot of the questions that we needed answers to or that we wanted to discuss, come from the health department, and they've given me their final pre-draft report to look through, and so I have everything I need now, and working to get that draft interim report done, and certainly get it done as soon as I can, and hopefully within the next 30 days. And of course, that will go back before the commission to take a hard look at and discussion and recommendations on.
Councilman Baker, you saw?
Okay, thank you. Chad, I have a question. On the asbestos testing that we do, how many of those come back positive, approximately?
I don't have that on the top of my head. I can get that information.
When they do come back positive, does the tribe help the family in removing the asbestos?
I believe we do have funding source for remediation. The asbestos generally comes from, I think, more of a commercial space. But yeah, we do have some funding available. I don't know exactly how much, but I can find out.
When that happens, is it our employees that go in to remove it?
So we have individuals that are certified to remove asbestos, but we also have a education plan where we help individuals get that certification. So, whether or not it's done by our staff, I think would be dependent on the circumstances, but there's also a number of third-party contractors out there that perform that work.
Okay, I just want to, I was curious to know what safety standards there are for our employees, what safety standards there are in place.
Sure. So we operate a group called ITEC, where we receive pass-through federal funding from the EPA to build capacity with other tribes. And so, we have plenty of funding available for all of the mitigation measures and safety equipment that's required for these programs, so much so that we actually go around, certainly less during COVID, but we travel around the country helping tribes understand these programs, develop their own, and build capacity. So we certainly leave no stone unturned when it comes to equipment that's available and primarily funded through federal grants.
Okay, thank you. I was just wanting to make sure our employees are all safe.
Absolutely.
And my next question is, have you heard anything else on the possibility of having those weekend passes or whatever for at-large citizens?
That is part of the conversation that we're having with the state now that they've kind of settled down on their restructuring, and that has been one of the priorities, I've laid out here, publicly in the past year, is What does a longer-term term compact look like, and how does it include those values and those priorities? And that's part of the conversation that we're having now.
Okay, thank you so much.
Councilman Buzzard.
Yes, Chad, I have a couple of questions. On, this says Cherokee Nation Realty, but you probably could answer this. Staff continues to work on narrative sections in the partial platform of software for the DeMarie Property Phase 1 environmental assessment. And I think it has to do with the historical development of structures on the property. What is that? Can you address that some?
I apologize. I don't have off the top of my head the information to answer that question, but I can circle back with you and by phone and shoot you an email.
Who put this report together, do you know?
This report is prepared by our environmental programs group, which
Okay.
is the senior director that manages not just, lead-based paint, but all of the air quality, water quality, all of that.
Okay, all right, yeah, I found that to be interesting, and to just ask to see what it was, because it said grave was found and identified on the property also, so. Anyway, I just wondered where the property was. The other thing that I requested, I'm not sure you're the right person to request it from, but I'm sure other council members in this committee and on the council would like a list of all the properties that the Cherokee Nation owns. Like in Delaware County, I pretty much know where our properties are, but I think it'd be interesting to see, and I don't know how the other council members feel about it, to see where those other properties are. Do you know where the properties are in your county? Or do you know if we own properties up in your county? But I just think it'd be interesting to see that. I've had that list, or I had a list years ago, probably 15 years ago, and I don't know what I've done with it, but can you get that list and give it to, I would be interested. I don't know if the other council members are interested in that or not, but I'd like to have a list of all properties that the nation's own.
Yeah, I can certainly coordinate that with Real Estate Services. I do believe, it is to my understanding that we have an interactive map online that currently identifies where those properties are. I know that's used by a lot of folks to identify hunting lands, which, again, we're addressing with this other legislative act we have. So I think most of that information is already available, but if you're talking in terms of legal descriptions, I think I can certainly coordinate that.
I know we had purchased some property there in Jay several years ago. I just want to make sure it's still on there, and we still own it, and my thinking was it's a perfect place for housing and tiny homes and things like that, but just want to make sure, and I'm interested what's in my district, and I don't know if the other people are interested in their district or not, but I'd like to have a list of them if we could. All right, thank you, Tad.
Councilman Deere?
Hey, Chad, I got a couple of questions. There used to be the recycling program at the casino and the different offices, and used to be a report on that. Are they still doing that?
I'll need to confirm that. I do know that there's some recycling efforts and initiatives that CMB does that's separate kind of and apart from what we do here on the government side. Let me take a look and see what that reporting status looks like and get it to you.
Okay. The second thing, on environmental, some citizens have asked about dumping on certain areas where people have dumped either, like we talked about, asbestos or lead. And should they send that report to you to get it investigated if it's on property? And then you go to DEQ and see if they will look into that?
Absolutely. You can send any report like that you receive or any concerns like that you receive to me. I know in our environmental programs, we have funding sources available to do small-scale cleanups, not industrial cleanups at all. And we do work with DEQ depending on the status of the land for funding that they might have available, which is examined on a case-by-case basis in the type and nature of the trash or pollution in the area.
Okay. Yeah, because some of them are asking about like investigating certain areas near waterways that have been dumped on. And that's what I would assume they send them to you, but I can start sending them to you, just forward them to you.
Please do.
All right, thank you.
All right, anyone else? I'd just like to make comment on the 4,300 acres in Sequoia County down there. I'm sure Councilman Legg and myself, we'd like to, anytime you have a meeting you want us there, we will gladly show up, because we're getting so much positive remarks every day about how happy the citizens are down there. We're doing that, so we'd like to be a part of that. And it's exciting about the seeds. That's a great program.
Yeah, and I would say, with the exception of the seed program right now, which is in its prime, and when we do the most public interface, the property out there, the comments I've received have been, there's been a lot of them, and mostly positive, so thank you.
Okay,
Just out of curiosity, because I know this hunting and fishing compact should be getting a lot more interesting since the Hogner case decision came out, since we're now classified as a reservation. What would happen if we kind of went back to looking at that status, meaning we didn't compact? What would that mean for our citizens? Because in an Indian Affairs Manual under the BIA, it determines that, there's no congressional authority to regulate hunting and fishing, trapping or gathering on Indian reservations. Neither do state laws and regulations apply to on-reservation fishing, game, activities, and otherwise by Indians. So that from BIA would seem like the compacts that we've had in previous years have definitely limited our citizens' rights. And now since the reservation's been clarified under the Hogner case, per McGirt, but what that means for us now, moving forward, considering that there's been no authority from Congress in that manner.
So I would say, first, the compact that we've negotiated in the past has been something that's very popular and something that is a true benefit to at-large citizens that live within the state of Oklahoma, and that's a consideration that we have. No doubt about it, the McGirt conversation, it's changed the concept of what a longer-term compact looks like or can be. And those are the issues that we're working through based on our priorities and what the changing environment means. We certainly consider that whenever we have these conversations with the state. And it has changed in a lot of ways, leverage that we have going forward. The hunting and fishing compact not only provides opportunities and benefits to at-large, out-of-reservation citizens, it also brings in millions and millions of conservation dollars into the state that's used to protect and enhance wildlife activities and opportunities outdoors. So there's a number of different competing priorities that are being considered whenever we have these conversations. And I can assure you that the McGirt piece or the Hogner piece is definitely a primary discussion point.
Okay. I've heard you say it a couple of times on this hunting and fishing thing. You said our priorities. Is there a way you can get our priorities printed so the citizens can see what your priorities are? Because I think our priorities may be different than what the citizens are. And if this is their tribe and I'm elected here to represent my constituents on what they think is their priorities, I want to see what your priorities are, so that way if they match up, and that way I can also say, hey, these are some additional priorities that our citizens need in moving forward with a long-term compact, especially if we're trying to bind ourselves for a lengthier period of time than these one-year extensions.
I would say a couple of things. One, the original compact that was approved back in, I think it was 2015, was brought before this body and approved for the Cherokee Nation to proceed with that agreement. The extensions have been, that original agreement lasted for 3 years, and the extensions have been to give more time to talk about what a longer-term compact looks like. And that's what, I have not been secretive about anything that the priorities that we've lined out as to the goals based on feedback that I've gotten from this body. And any longer-term compact would have to come back through here for approval. And so that is the way that compacting in general across not just hunting and fishing, but across the entirety of tobacco compacts, gaming compacts, that's how it works. And so if you have any specific priorities that you have, I'll definitely consider those if you'd like to send them to my way.
And I will. I just want to know what priorities you have on your, I know we've talked about it and there's been a long discussion. I've been here 18 months or so and I've heard different things that we've mentioned as priorities, such as allowing at-large citizens to come into the area and hunt and get regulations extended and made them larger, much like with other nations having more tag limits and stuff. So I think there's been a lot of conversation. I just want to know, what is it are you negotiating for? How many tag limits? So I can go back to my citizens and say, hey, this is what they're working on. And if they don't like it, then I'm going to come here and say, what you're working on isn't on behalf of what my district says. They think that's a bad compact. That's the negotiation that they think that would be kind of just more open and transparent. I'm not saying anything about being secretive at all. It's just being a little bit more way that I can work with them next time I see them. You know, hopefully the pandemic lifts and we can all have community meetings. I can go back to them and say, hey, this is what they're trying to get down on the compact. And if they say, well, we want this, then I can come back to you and say, well, here's one more thing that you need to add into it that they would be okay with. So that way there's inclusion from our citizens. I don't feel like there's inclusion on these things right now that are being discussed. And that's kind of what I wanted to say. If there's a way you could write down and send them to me on what your priorities are, and then I can go to them and say, what else do we need to add to it? What can we make this compact better for our citizens? If it's for them, it's not for the state, it's for us. Because through what we already have for our citizens in my district, they don't need a compact based off of the BIA and the Department of Interior regulations. But if we're going to, you know, that way I can go to them and we can have a dialogue and I can come back to you with a dialogue on it. So that'd be very helpful.
I think that if you have any specific areas that you would like to share what your priorities are, I can take those. I don't think that, you know, in the context of negotiation on behalf of the tribe, you know, we could maybe chat offline because it's generally not a good strategy to lay out every single aspect of what a negotiation is in a setting like this. And so, you know, there's so many aspects to this hunting and fishing compact that extend beyond just the issuance of a single license to a single individual. There's conservation, there's a whole myriad of things that play into that.
So are we in the driver's seat in this compact, or are you saying we're not?
Absolutely.
Based off who has the more authority here?
Absolutely.
So, okay, so I think
We
since
have an
we're in the
incredible-
driver's seat, it shouldn't go against us to be telling our citizens what we have, what we can do. I mean, based off of what we see we already have in front of us, from what regulations have been handed to us from.
We're most certainly
Treaty aspects.
in a position of leverage,
So-
having this conversation due to the unique nature of the compact, what it delivers in terms of financial power from federal resources,
All right.
and
Well-
considering McGirt.
Just that's the only thing I have to say before. I'll send you everything I've already said in an email of what my citizens think about it. But as far as knowing where you're at on it, you know, I guess we'll see whenever it comes back to the body for approval on a new compact. So appreciate it, Speaker, or appreciate it,
You
Chair.
bet. Councilman Quick?
Yeah, Chad, I just want to be clear. So now I've sent you a few things. So our constituents tell us their concerns. We send it to you. And when you go into your negotiations, you are considering that and talking about things. And if you snuck around and left something out that I sent you, it's going to come right back here and I get to read over it and make sure I like it and my constituents like it. Is that about, you got to put that simply to me. Is that the way it works?
The concern and priorities that are expressed by this body carry a lot of weight in the conversations that we have. And if you're asking me whether or not a longer-term compact, which is what we're working towards potentially, if our priorities align, would come back to this body for approval, the
All right.
answer is yes.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Well, we realize you have a full plate and with the the environment's on everybody's mind, and we know you're trying to do your best, and just keep us updated, and we appreciate everything you do.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Good report. All right. Got any old business? New business? All right. Anything to the right on announcements? Anything on the left? All right. I need a motion. Next meeting will be Monday, April 12th at 2:00 p.m. Thank you.